Hi everyone, this is Greg from Greg's Whiskey Guide, aka Grégoire pour les spectateurs français. Thanks for joining in, for new subscribers as well as long-time ones. Il va y avoir des vidéos en français, mais celle-ci est en anglais. La majorité sur ma chaîne est en anglais. Mais je vais démarrer toute une série de vidéos en français, donc ne vous inquiétez pas. So yeah, I was talking quickly to my French audience to tell them there's going to be a special series about French whiskies, and mostly in French, but I will do 1 or 2 videos at least to talk to you about my recent discoveries. In fact, this video is a kind of an update of one called, we'll put a link in the description, 12 whiskies you should have in your bar, 12 world whiskies you should have in your bar. So it's an update to that, and it's something that I decided to call 5 world whiskies, but in fact I will give you 22 names, a lot of alternatives for Christmas, and of course it means also to continue your whiskey journey, as I started the Scottish ones. I know that for Christmas you're gonna see a lot of videos talking to you about 5 scotches, 10 scotches for Christmas, etc. And it's very good, and I could do this, but I decided, or top whiskies of 2020. But as I pursue my world whiskies journey, I have not finished so far, but I thought I could give you some tips to what to choose for your whiskey journey. And I hope the mic is okay, but because I see it disappear. Okay. So I divided my recommendations into 5 categories. It's a bit weird maybe, but so Asia part 1 for India, Asia part 2 for Japan and another country, France for the 3rd category. Of course I have to do it a bit on my way, I live in France. The 4th category is Europe, and of course it includes UK, and the last one is North America. So I hope you will find in these recommendations maybe some ideas for yourself, to treat yourself for Christmas, and maybe also to offer. So gifts recommendations. I will start by India. Why India? Because they doing a lot of great things this last decade, let's say. Sorry, and you won't be surprised. I will try not to be too much talking, but you know, Amrut Fusion, this is really for me the flagship of the distillery. I won't present into details every distillery and every whiskey, otherwise we're here for an hour and I don't want it. Great synthesis of the distillery's multi qualities and also the smoky side, and with a beautiful compromise with a 50% ABV. So gorgeous, probably India's bestseller abroad. I don't know. It's my guess because I know it's very popular usually. So Amrut Fusion is my first recommended option, and I will give you, of course, as usual, alternatives, but this time not only 1 or 2, but most of the time 3 or more alternatives. So I gotta be quick. For lower budget, this was around 50 euros or so. When I say euro, guys, bear in mind, I mean for 50 euros, I mean around 40 pounds. And I don't know about the dollars and Canadian, but I know it's probably more. Cheaper option is the one I talked to you already, so I won't be long. So it's an entry level, 40% ABV only. But if you want to know what is Indian whiskey with this particular malt taste, because it's Indian malt, go for this one, the Raj Igala, around 25-30 euros, so very cheap option. Now, if you want something more traditional and closer to the malted barley, really very closer, which is the focus of this expression, it is the main expression from Amrut, the Bangalore distillery, like it says on the label, Indian barley from the Himalaya mountain and prairies around. There you go, about 40 euros or 50. Now you have another great distillery. I could talk to you about Rampur, which is also Indian, but I don't have in my collection to show you. But this one, and again on the smoky side from Paul John, is a beautiful one as well, and one of my very favorite from the distillery, along with a select cask pitted, which is more expensive because it's cask strength. On to now the second part of Asia, focusing mainly on Japan, but also on one other country. My all-time favorite, not necessarily this expression, but it's my second favorite distillery worldwide. Can you imagine that? First is Port Ellen, and second is Yoichi. It is the first distillery back into, if I'm not mistaken, 1934. Yeah, Masataka Taketsuru created in the north cold Hokkaido Island area of Japan. This is a small map here, so it's very way up north, very northern. Contrarily to the other brands, the Miyagi-Kyo, which is Honshu, which is kind of main island in Japan, and to Yamazaki and Hakushu from the concurrent Suntory. Here we're in Nikka group. This is the knowledge statement. Okay, a bit expensive, 70 euros here. It replaces the 10, the 12 years old, the 15, and the 20, and the single casks. It's the only reference you can have at the moment. You have to wait around 5 years to get something more older, but I believe it's around 7-8 years old probably, and it's already a treat. It's a beautiful complex whiskey, a kind of Highland Parkish style, between the 12 and the 18, very high class, little smoky. There is some peat, but it's not an overpowering peat, just kind of signature. Just love its elegant profile, and cannot enough recommend it. But then if you want something in the 50 euros category, so cheaper, I really recommend these coffee malt whiskies, not made again with any coffee, but it's the name of the still that you can see here, continuous still, where for once they didn't put inside the still a grain whiskey but malt whiskey, so it's a bit unusual one. This 45 ABV. This is really has a pastry profile, so while we're closing into Christmas, to have a pastry whiskey you can match with chocolate cake, you can match with different kind of pastries and treats around, you know, the ending time of the dinner, but it works also as an aperitif, so highly recommended. Once again, reference. Now we're going, I know with the next one we're going into the upper category. All of these references, by the way, I'm going to show you today, are under 100 euros, so most of the time they should be all under 90 pounds, I believe. I don't know in dollars, I'm sorry. Of course, for me, forget the entry-level Cavalan, 40% ABV and all that stuff. I'm not satisfied with their basic offer, which showcases too much the oak. It should be less heavy on oak and show more distillery character. I'm not sure this one really shows the distillery character, but what I'm sure of, it's one of the best value talking about again sherry casks matured whiskey. And even if it's 46, it really delivers a lot of juicy, fruity, ripe fruit and fresh red fruit and all kinds of stuff you can find in the old style Macallans, Glengrants and Glenfarclasses. For instance, if you can't afford a family cask, you will be very happy with this one. Now, onto the French whiskies category. I am really digging deep now into French whiskey. I should have done that before, but there's some reasons for that. I won't explain too long here, it's not the purpose. But let me show you my highlights of the year. But I have to say, I picked some that I'm sure, or almost sure, let me know if you can't, pick into internet online shops. So I had to unfortunately put off the list some beautiful discoveries of this year that I will talk about, for instance, tomorrow in French, but later on in English as well. But here is one, even if it's a limited edition devoted to maritime ceremonies around old boats. It is the Brest 2020. Brest is a French town in Brittany. This is a Brittany whiskey. And this is single malt, matured in ex-bourbon barrels, but then finished in Madeira casks. And you know how I love Madeira finishes. And this works really well. And 46% ABV, no caramel, no chill filtration, I believe, and it's I think it's a beautiful one. So Armorique is the name of the single malt, Varangem is the name of the distillery. So I think you should find this online, and it comes with a fancy maritime bag as well. I love it. Now I have another option that I checked out on internet. It's a very rare French whiskey, not a lot of, I think 11 casks per year. So very limited craft distillery from the west of France again, but more in the south, in Limoges. Recent discovery, but I tasted it before. It's the Michard distillery, family owned, by Jean and Julie, so father and daughter. Why I'm talking about this one? Because it's an exceptionally fruity whiskey, so it can be very festive one, loads of oranges, peaches, apricots, very fresh. And this is very special as it uses, if I'm not mistaken in English, otherwise apologies, a centenary yeast stomp. So it's every year from 100 years ago they're cultivating the same yeast source and locally made. So it's very unusual and exceptional, I think, in terms of rarity. And it's brewery yeast because it's basically a brewery. So that's why I think it's so interesting profile-wise. But I will do a review about it in French, and I will talk to you in my best of French whiskies. This will be in for sure. Of course, if those options are too difficult to find, I think online the most interesting value you will find is the classic from Armorique as well. And what is great, you can see here, but also probably there is for you there is some of the informations there that are in English on the label and on the box, which I think is awesome. 46% again, it's very natural one, great value, firm profile, but still affordable. Oak, spices, malted barley, some kind of ripe fruits as well. Very interesting and unusual profile, but I think it's the most approachable of the range. Price wise for this one we were in the 60, the Michard 60 to 70. You might find, if you're French, you will find it around 52 or 55 on some online shops. We are looking into 45 only. And of course I cannot not speak about my favorite distillery, which is Glenarmore. Not necessarily this expression, but the one called Bourbon Barley. I haven't opened yet, but I know it's good. Heard good things about it. And it's again a Brittany distillery. Was family owned, now has been purchased by a bigger company. Hope it will not change. But for now we have this beautiful Glenarmore, which is very natural single malt, and the peated version is called Cornog. So this was it for the French category. Now on to the Europe and UK mixed together. I don't have at the moment, I'm sorry guys, any English distillery bottle on board, so I will only talk to you about, if I haven't mistaken the, okay. So Europe and UK, but I will choose one as a favorite for this category. I will highlight first 2 German whiskies, that's what I meant. Whoops. So Sleers, of course, I already talked to you about this brand, distillery, and also this version as well, so it won't be very long. This one is an unusual one, 51%. It's probably it's not the flagship. The flagship, sorry, of the distillery is the classic one, so ex-bourbon. But for me, this one is highlighting all the work of the distillery in terms of finishes, because it mixes the classic, so ex-American oak, with the Sauterne finish, the port finish, the sherry PX finish, and the Oloroso finish. I was a little worried before I tried this one, but in fact it works really well, and it's juicy, super fruity, super complex, and really satisfying. This calls for a last dram after dinner, Christmas dinner, or around this very festive, I hope, despite everything that's happening, period of time of the year, and one to enjoy with your friends who love whiskey. I didn't hear a lot of complaint about this one. I just love it. It's really powerful and satisfying. An alternative, which is a choice of mine, because you know another Madeira finish, I'm sorry, or not. Same distillery, just a Madeira finish I opened this year, and I just love it. It's very sexy, nice floral notes on top of the usual malty notes. And all this richness of the fruits and the flowers that brings all the Madeira finish, in my opinion. So we're around 70 for this one, maybe less in Germany and on online platforms, and almost the same I think for this one. Of course I had to speak, and now we're going west and north, of Irish whiskies, and no surprise, this one still comes around the most advised ones. Single pot still, at this time it was written pure pot still. It's an old bottle of mine, highly recommended. Typical this kind of cereally crunch, crispy, and a bit slightly bitter malted and unmalted barley notes. And on top of that, those ripe red fruits, beautiful. Another option, and again a Madeira finish. Yeah, I know there's a theme. by Cooley. I think you still can find this 10 years old Madeira cask. We were into 50s for Redbreast. Now we're around 70 euros, maybe less in some parts of Europe. Still in the UK circle, if I may say, of course Wales has to be represented, and this is my favorite expression, even if it doesn't highlight at the most the distillate. I think it's a beautiful success for this one. It's the old packaging now, it's a bit more squared, very fruity as well, very elegant, some waxiness as well. I talked about this yesterday in a live show with Frederick from Whiskey Pilgrim. It's from his country, High Coast Distillery, previously called Bucks. Beautiful single malt, slightly peated. The Timmer, 48%, no chill filtering, no coloring, as natural as it can be. Lovely whiskey, very it's the light side of smoke. It's 40 euros here, 45 in other countries. Really bargain considering the quality. Now on to the last category, which is North America. Hope you're still there. My highlight hasn't really changed, I'm sorry. It's one of my personal favorites, and it's no less than Westland Sherrywood. Westland single malt from Seattle, so West Coast. Really craft company, even if it's owned now by a big cognac French company. As you can see, no chill filtered, it's written on the label, no coloring added. Small production, 46% ABV. I also, of course, recommend the American single malt, just called single malt, which is only with American oak. I also recommend the peated one. Haven't opened it yet. I just tasted it 2 times in a show, but I love it. I love all the range, in fact. Well, more to say later on about this brand. Another unusual and interesting whiskey I already talked to you about, but maybe not enough. I love the thing they tried here. It's called straight malt. We're in the United States, we're in Kentucky. It's usually a bourbon producing distillery, but they do experiment a lot. And for this one, there are other options. There's a straight rye, straight wheat, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But this one is a straight malt. So it's 51% barley, but there's almost 47, I think, of corn. So it's a kind of reverse process to usual bourbons. Not really reverse, because not usually such a high proportion of malt. But you know what I mean. So it's malty, but it's in between Scotch single malt and bourbon. It's very interesting profile. I will talk to you about this one another time as well. Of course, if you cannot find this 40-50 euros, this one is the most expensive of the flight with the Cavalan. It's around 85 euros, so 10 pounds less. But of course, if you can't afford it, I have 2, 3 even cheaper options for you. I have, of course, the Double Oak from Woodford Reserve, around 40 maybe euros, which is a mellowed 2 times I forgot every time. It's a shame. Matured in a custom crafted barrel and then rebarreled in heavily toasted, lightly charred barrel for finishing. There you go. Apologies. Of course, 25 or 30 euros here. Single barrel select in Tennessee whiskey category, so mellowed in charcoal filtering with a Lincoln County process charcoal filtering for more sweetness. Beautiful exotic maple, because it's filtered through 3 meters of maple charcoal. So wood, so it's something very sweet and pleasant and potentially appealing for everyone. Also calling for a dessert company pairing, if you like. I couldn't finish without a Canadian whiskey, and I chose only one that I hope you can find in your country, because it's probably the most popular and available one worldwide. Of course, it's the reduced to 43% Lot 40, which is a favorite of mine. 100% rye. This is really beautiful, and yes, this one is signed by Don, and so I'm happy to have it. Juicy rye, beautiful, floral, fruity. This is a treat on its own. Could be a beautiful aperitif, or could be a beautiful Manhattan as well, a cocktail if you like. So there you have it. 22 whiskies in 26 minutes. I hope you find it interesting, and as usual, click the like button if you like the video, notification bell to be aware of next ones, and see you very soon. And if I don't see you, have a happy Christmas, and wishes for the new years will come on time. Bye bye.